Fishing life's a mighty fine life, away from trouble and away from strife. Fishing life is a mighty fine life for me, oh, mighty fine life for me, oh. Brothers and the occasional sister, welcome to part 2 of being 17 years of age and on the street. I'm currently in the North Island. It's 1981 and I'm playing with my good mate Moy. We've got a gig in a place that's less desirable. They're not gang members, they're kind of gang affiliated. None of them had patches on. I don't know if that's because patches weren't allowed in the venue, but anyway, straight to it. A really fantastic gig as far as gigs go, only paying $100, so $50 each. Traditionally, Moy was always late to anything, and I was up there on the stage, had my harmonica, and the first song was Mama Don't Want No Guitar Played Round Here. Well, Mama don't want no guitar played round here. Oh, Mama don't want no guitar played round here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't like, I'll play my right through the night. And Mama don't want no guitar play around here. Alright. Oh, Mama don't need no bass in the house. Oh, Mama don't need no bass in the house. Well, I don't care what Mama don't like, I play harmonica all the time. Mama don't need no bass in the house. And so forth, and the floor is just straight away people up dancing, mostly women, and then the men come, and I'm doing my thing, and then Moy's up on his guitar and he's playing it. Now I'm completely sober. I'm not smoking anything, I'm not drinking anything. I've been doing a bit of a binge and I've been on a downer and I'm just getting back up. We've got money. We don't have a place really to stay, a firm place, but we've got money, and that's the main thing. With money you can get a place. We've got food in our bellies, excuse me, and we're out having a good time. Moy's in good form, I'm in good form, and everything's going great. Now once in a lifetime you meet these types of people, and we're taking a break and he walked in. Got to be 6'6". Guy comes in and just completely different, jet black hair, very, very blue eyes, although I only found that out later because it was dark, couldn't tell on the night. Very lean and strong and well composed, and everybody in the room sort of sensed his grace when he came in, and he had a presence about him. He looked up at the smile and he gave me the biggest smile, just like a big smile of all straight white teeth, unlike my own. Looked at me and I waved out to him. Moy nodded. He sat in the corner, very, very confident, just sat up, and he got into the music. And we started playing again. He even danced, and he didn't even have a woman to dance with. He was one of the few men, the only man that got up and danced by himself. He was just like having fun, and back down at the bar, and real confident, sat down. I went over in the break and got talking to him. He shook his hand. I shook his hand, and he says, Jukan. I said, Jukan, never heard that name before. He goes, yep. And actually, to be honest, I've never heard it afterwards either. And we got talking, and he was so interesting. I just felt drawn towards him for his wisdom and his mana and his presence. He just had that thing. He exuded confidence and grace and also integrity. He didn't say a lot. He didn't speak a lot. But every word he said to me, I hung on to. He had that way of just having a gravity to his voice that some people just have, and he had it. So him and I, we were like that. I was quite different. I'm 17, he's 19 years of age. And that's an age gap. At that age is quite a big one. He's a lot more mature. He's not smoking anything. He's just drinking a beer. He's not hammering back the whiskey or anything. And the night's going really, really well. We're having a good gig and everybody's laughing, and it's just one of those good buzz. Anyway, 4 guys come in, patched members from another gang. And these guys, they let them come in. It's sort of like open, but there was a real bad feeling. They had 2 women with them. There's a bad, sort of a dark cloud when they came in. I watched Jukan sort of look as they came in, and he was like watching me, or the music, I was back up now playing again, he was watching them, and he just had his eyes on them, and something just wasn't gelling. The rest of the people weren't really too worried. There was a compound out the back that the 4 guys and the 2 girls with them went out the back, and I took a break again, and Dukon came out with me. We were at the back. I was going out there to have a cigarette because I smoked. Dukon didn't smoke. Went out the back there, and everybody was having a smoke. You could actually smoke inside. It didn't make a difference back then. There was no rules on smoking. And the 2 women started having a fight with their 2 opposing boyfriends. And then the fight got really dirty, and they were fighting the men, and then the men started to hit the woman, which is something I'd never ever seen before. And they were being brutal. These guys were brutal. I was smacking them against the wall and smashing their faces really hard, and it was like, holy shit. And Dukon had just popped out for a minute to grab something, a drink for somebody, and he was coming back in. He had 2 drinks in his hands, and as soon as he saw this guy hitting this girl, it was all over. He was like, went over and he grabbed this guy and he put him in a choker hold, and he literally choked him out. And as he did it, there was like 4 guys in total, so the other 3, actually the other 2, because the other one was still getting beaten up, or was actually beating the girl up. They were having a fight, like a man and woman fight. But the other 2 guys had jumped on Dukhan. He took one guy out with his elbow straight away, and the other guy, he just sort of ignored him as if he wasn't there while he was beating him, and he was choking this guy out. He hit him in a like a sleeper. He choked him out, and then he turned around and dropped the other guy, and then that left the one guy fighting his mate's girlfriend, and he was still hitting her. And Dukon just spun him round and hooked him under the jaw, and the guy was out for the count. It was all over quick. And these were like big, like patched. So they were all scattered, and the police were arriving as this was going on. Someone had already like called the cops, and for once in a lifetime they came early rather than late. Maybe they were in the area, don't know, but they seemed to arrive very, very quick for what was going on. The cops poured into the thing. Party got closed down. They were taking statements, and Dukhan, he was really composing himself well, talking to the police, and I was just in awe. Everything had happened without me stepping in or Moy stepping in or anybody. He'd actually contained this whole 6 people, and he'd like contained everything to stop the violence against the woman without knowing the story or anything, all by himself, single-handedly. And it was like, you'd only see something like that in a movie, you know, in real life situations. And you guys know that have done street fighting, and you guys that have been in those situations know that just virtually never ever happens. It's completely rare. If that fly's going to stay in here, I'm going to have to take a pause, and because if he lands on my microphone, you're going to have a big anyway. In a life that's for me, which has been, and I've mixed with a lot of gangs. I used to hang out the pad at Highway 61 gang and in Worcester Street in Christchurch quite a bit, played music there later on years, and I'll bring you those stories. I've never ever seen any, in all the years of playing in pubs, I've never seen one person clean up a situation so quickly as that there, and that's a whole life, and that's a whole lifetime of me travelling around. So that was a pivotal moment in me realising there's people out there that are quite incredible with their skills. So at the end of the night, the cops have taken the statements. The ambulance took, one of the girls got taken away, the other one was okay. One of the guys got taken away that Dukon had dealt to. The cops took his statement. We went back to his place. Moy, he disappeared. As soon as the cops came in, Moy was gone. He just disappeared. I woke up the next morning, and it's like I've woken up in this palace. It's not really a palace, it's just like an apartment with two rooms, but I've got my own room, and he's got his, and he's got a dressing gown on. He's had a shower, and he's taken this big wok down, and he's opened up his fridge, and there's just all of these colourful vegetables and fruits and chicken and salmon and all this stuff in the fridge, and drinks, whereas I was used to having a fridge you'd open up and there might be a couple of cans of beer and an old carrot in there or something. He's got a whole colourful fridge, and I'm sitting in his kitchen and I'm drinking a fruit juice he's given to me, and he's got this open up, and he's got this wok, and it's got it on there, and he's smashed a bit of oil, he's chopping up cabbage, he's chopping up garlic, chopping up ginger, throwing everything in the pan, some raisins, which I've never seen raisins ever cooked with vegetables in my life, all these colourful vegetables all going in. Then he gets some frozen shrimps, stick them in, and the garlic with the shrimps goes up with some butter on top of that, and he's like tossing it, and the smells going up, and then a couple of bowls, bang bang on the counter. He's got a big wooden spoon, puts it in there, a couple of those there, we've got a bowl each, sitting back, it's like bang, whoa. And this guy's got these big strong long forearms sitting there, and I'm looking at him in awe. He's got these blue eyes and this dark hair, this like square jaw, and he's just like eating his food and he's real calm. And I said, bro, that was a crazy night. He goes, yeah, eating, and I'm like in awe of him, and he's eating this food, and he's no sooner he'd done that, and he goes, dessert? I was like, yeah, bro. Takes it away, he's into the sink, gets a couple of bowls, got some blueberries, some cream, he's got some walnut, he grates over it. Later that became one of my favourite desserts, that. Couple of bowls of blueberries with cream, and I'm eating that there, and I'm like, fuck, this is good. And I'm thinking, normally I'd be getting up and have a cigarette and a coffee, and I'm eating food. We have that, and he goes, let's go to the gym. So yeah. Oh, he's got this Holden Monaro. It's jet black. He's had it painted jet black. And black's a really nice colour for a car if you don't mind washing it every day. And he goes out there and he's got the chamois and he gives it a quick wipe, this beautiful Holden Monaro V8, just a beautiful, got a nice sound system in it. We're in there, we're going to the gym, and he's playing Dark Side of the Moon's album. That's the album Dark Side of the Moon from Pink Floyd, and he's playing that song Great Gig in the Sky, and it's got that woman singing, and I'm just like completely straight, I'm not stoned at all, but I'm high on this buzz of having a good breakfast, and he's just like driving real cool, and the music, and I'm watching him, and on his knuckles, both his knuckles have got the skin taken off from fighting the night before, but he's like completely composed. We pull up to the gym, and he goes in there, and a few guys know him. He goes in, he's got his towel with him, his little toilet kit. We go in there, and he goes, spot me. So he's pressing weights. I'm in there, and there's all these like strong guys walking around, and I'm this little skinny musician that's strung out. I'm thinking, fuck, these are like a different species of human to me. Ducon's like pumping weights, and he's on the lap machine pulling it down. He's doing curls, and I'm like doing a fraction of the weight each time, and he's just like being so cool with me. And I'm like spotting him there and talking to people, and he does a full solid workout for an hour and a half solid, just going one thing after another. And then we go to another place out the back, and there's a punching bag, and I hold that, and I'm holding it, and he's like, look, he's smashing this thing. I'm just like struggling every time he's hitting. It's like just about throwing me off my feet. And he's showing me how to hold it, and he's working out on that. He's starting a big workout, and then he starts doing these mean ass these kicks and his kicks are going above my head to the bag, bang, 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 bang. And I'm just in complete awe. This guy's like something out of a bloody, like, out of a movie. You just don't see people like this. We get talking when we're finished back at his place. He's now on lunch, and it's smoked salmon with a salad with little cherries and little cherry tomatoes and cucumber and sliced up turmeric, and this really big healthy salad with smoked salmon in it. We're eating that. And I said to him, bro, tell me a story. And he said, you tell me your story. And I said, well, grew up in the Abel Tasman National Park till I was 5. Moved to Fielder National Park, lived with my dad. My parents broke up when I was 10. I left home when I was 15. That's pretty much it. He goes, yeah. And I said, what about your story? And he told me a story, and I'm not going to repeat it because it was a conversation between just him and me. But let me just tell you guys that he had the most hideous upbringing, the most tormented, sick, disgusting, humiliating things were done to him as a child as he grew up. And it was just, to hear his story was just mind-boggling again. And I said to him, bro, how come you've got your shit together so much? You seem so confident. You are so confident. How come you seem to be exceeding in everything you do? I've only known this guy for not so long, and already he's displayed so many things in his character which are just like mind-blowing. He says to me, one word only. And I said, what's that? He said, focus. I thought about that, focus. I said, focus on what? He said, that's it. That's what you've got to find out. He said, that's your journey. I said, so what do you focus on? He said, for me, it's focusing on being a fighter and being well. And having known his background, fighting was something he'd learned to do very, very young in self-defense, because he was beaten up a lot as a kid, but he also had taken that a step further. He was practicing not indulging in alcohol and drugs and all the trappings that so many of us that come from abused backgrounds do. He'd gone a complete 180 and gone, fuck that, I'm going to do better than you, to his perpetrators of how he was victimised. I'm not going to be what you were. I'm going to rise above that. And man, if only so many of us that come from a harsher background, or those that do come from a harsher background, could rise above and think the way Dukon did. And that's what he did. So he was quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary. Like, you never ever met someone like that before. Just amazing. Just get a pause for a moment. I was pausing to think how it ended with Moy, and I'm pretty sure that after spending time with Dukon, I spent 3 weeks with him in total, and I'm pretty sure in that 3 weeks I made an executive decision that I was going to separate myself from people that were taking drugs and alcohol all the time, and I was going to try to find something for me to focus on, which I did, and that's going to come in future stories. But over the next 3 weeks I hung out with Moy a few times, we played a few gigs, but I decided I would make a clean break and I would head south, and that's exactly what I did after 3 weeks. I shook Dukon's hand, I said goodbye. I went away with a little bit of optimism, but as I travelled from there and that place in Hamilton, and I travelled down to Wellington, on the way I started to slip, and by the time I got to Wellington I was in a pretty low space again. I slid quite a bit. I was back down on my ear again. I wasn't feeling particularly good. I had the blues, so I headed south down to Wellington. I found myself in Cuba Street, my hat down in front of me, my blue rucksack behind me, all my belongings in the world, and the harmonica playing. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. Black Betty had a child, Bama Lamb. The damn thing gone wall. She from Birmingham, Bama Lamb. Way down in Alabama, Bama Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. She's a mean girl, she's a mean girl, she's a mean girl, but she's a king girl. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, oh, Bama Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty. That song will always bring people in, and it did. And I had all of these people in front of me, and you know what? I was deeply down. I had this music going and it was pumping out of me, and it was girls dancing and people putting money in my hat, but I was down, man. I felt empty, I felt lonely, I felt lost. And again I thought back to what Dukon had said to me, focus. I thought, what do I focus on? The music takes me around, it fills the head up with money, I meet people, but I'm just alone all the time, and I don't seem to be able to have a place I can call my own. I don't have a home, I'm lost, I'm insecure. I don't have anything that's solid in my life. There's nothing always like that. At least when I was travelling prior to this, I had Frosty with me all the time. I had someone to look after and something that I cared about and something to love, and it loved me. And when I finished the last Frosty episode, if you watched that, if you haven't, you should watch that. It was really hard for me to actually remember letting Frosty go, and I realised why it was so emotional for me, because I love that dog. That dog loved me. And one thing that I learnt, and I've learnt through this life, is we all need something or somebody to love. And without that, we get lost. And here I was again in Cuba Street playing my harmonica with a big audience, and anybody looking on with me, they'd form an opinion, oh, this guy looks good or he looks confident, but I wasn't. I wasn't at all. I was really, really insecure. I was actually suffering from social anxiety. I was anxious, yet I was the main attention to a crowd of people. So I was playing this gig there and doing a whole lot of songs, and people are smiling and I'm talking, and after a while I start to get this sort of come up with my mood a little bit. And I'm completely clean here. I'm not smoking anything, and I wasn't drinking. I was just keeping myself clean, because I was starting to work out now that drugs weren't a good idea. They would always bring me down, and I'd seen Dukon, who smoked nothing and drunk nothing, and he was on top, and I thought, maybe I'm going to clean my act up a little bit. And I did start to. I still had an addiction to cigarettes, and I've always had an addictive personality, one thing or another. It's always been my downfall. But I wasn't getting stoned all the time, and I certainly wasn't drinking the same amount of booze. And everything was a bit more flat, but I had a little bit more control. So I played this gig here in Cuba Street, playing away, and a girl with very, very brown, almost like chocolate hair, like this brown, thick hair, and she had these big, those great big rimmed glasses where it makes people's eyes look really like bigger and funny, and she's quite tall and lanky, and she comes up to me with these big eyes, and she goes, "You're wonderful." And I thought, yeah, no, that feel wonderful. And she said, "Do you want to go out for a milkshake?" And I thought, a milkshake? Because I've always been a sucker for milkshakes. I always used to love those banana milkshakes. Banana milkshakes have featured in my younger life. I don't drink them all today now, of course, but because they're like a big cup full of diabetes type 2. But back then I said, yeah. So she looked at me with these big eyes, with these big glasses. We're sitting at the bar, in this milkshake bar thing, and I'm just like, I've got the thick shake, the big thick shake with a big long giraffe on it, and we're just sitting there looking at each other. She's got these big eyes looking at me like this here, and I can't decide whether she's attractive or not because these eyes are so fucking big. And I'm drinking away there, the milkshake in the bar. Somebody comes up to me, see me in the street, goes, "Hey bro, I love your music." And it's like, yeah, and I straight away for a moment my ego goes, "Oh, I'm something special again," and momentarily I'm feeling like I'm something, which the deep part of me is still really, really insecure, but it just pepped up for this moment. Someone's sort of acknowledging me, and I've got this girl beside me. Anyway, we end up back at her mum's place, and her mum was an absolute nutcase. She wouldn't stop talking. We get there, and the whole time she's like yakking the whole time, and you can't even talk to this woman. All I can remember is that she asked me something about myself, and I go to tell her, and she'd talk over the top, so she never learned anything about me. And her daughter was like embarrassed all the time. She's going, "Oh mum, quiet mum," and trying to have this conversation with her daughter. We end up out on the balcony, or it's sort of like, not a balcony, it had glass around. What do you call that thing? A conservatory. We're out in the conservatory, we're sitting out there, and now she takes off these big weird Coke bottle glasses and lets her hair down, and suddenly she's transformed from this geeky looking sort of skinny tall girl with chocolate hair and funny eyes to this strikingly beautiful woman, and it's almost like a transformation of a completely different woman. And suddenly I'm looking at her going, holy shit, she's beautiful. And we're talking, and I'm just like listening to what she's saying, and all I'm having is bad thoughts like a man does. She's looking at me and she's talking about, I don't even remember what she was talking about. I'm just thinking like, God, you're beautiful and stuff and that there. And I thought, I'm just going to go and kiss her. So the thing about when you kiss a woman, one of three things happen. I was going to say two. One of three things happen. The first thing is that nothing really happens at all. You kiss them and they kind of look back and go, oh yeah, and it's not negative, it's not bad. The second thing is that they slap you in the face and say, get your hands off me, and push you away and reject you. And the third thing is that you have this amazing chemistry where your immune system is mixing with theirs, and you've got this suddenly this nice warm feeling of like everything's like really, really magic. And I had already experienced that before. Well, it wasn't that one. It was the whack, and I've got a hot ear and my ear's ringing, and I thought, well, what was that for? And she said, you just kissed me. And I went, yeah. And she goes, ew. And I'm like, well, don't you like me? And she goes, yeah, but not like that. And I go, oh, far out. And I'm like, oh, sorry. And she goes, you probably should go. And the mother, who's just been yakking constantly, comes in and goes, cup of tea? She goes, no, he's leaving. And I've got a ringing ear and a red face, and I'm like, the mother's completely unaware of what's going. I haven't got her name or anything. I'm back out on the street, and I'm walking with my harmonica down the street, feeling like absolute bloody back down to the absolute bottom again. I don't know anybody, and that's the one person I got to know. Heading back to the youth hostel, which is where I was staying. I'm making good money playing on the street, and Cooper Street was a great place to be playing around those days. It changed a lot since then to what it is now. It's quite different. How would you describe Cooper Street back then? Well, any of you guys that were there in the 1980s will know what it was like. Far out, real colourful place. I'm going back there, and this guy comes up to me, and he really reminded me of Berta, because he wasn't, if you know Berta of the previous stories, Berta was a bloke that was a cross-dresser. Wasn't a transvestite, was a bloke that used to wear women's clothes. But the next one that I met in Cooper Street, this was a transvestite. It was a guy that was about my size, but he was dressed like a woman, but clearly a man. Like, wasn't hiding the fact. I can't remember if it was facial hair or not, but just disgusting. For me anyway, not for everybody. And some people might be offended by this, but I was disgusted by this transvestite. And he was just in my face, and I was that close. I just wanted to fuck off because I was in a bad state, and I wanted to get out of it. And I'm trying to get back to the youth hostel. And he invited me to a club. And the only reason I went with him, he said, there's a lot of blues music. And he'd seen me playing music, and he said, and they jammed down there. I can't remember the name of the club, so if you were there in 1981, somebody refresh my memory. It's a place where they used to have open night. Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just that night they did. But anyway, so I ended up going down with this horrible bloody thing that sort of identified as God knows what. And we go into the club, and when we walked in, everybody's looking at us together like we're a couple. I'm thinking, oh, jeez. Walking, so I couldn't get away from him fast enough in the club, but I couldn't find anybody to actually get close to. And so I ended up like always running away from him in the club. Eventually I just had to tell him, I said, look man, I don't want you to hang out with me. Just fuck off. I don't like you, I'm not attracted to you in any way, and I don't like your bars, I just want to be alone. And he was like, well right then. He was like some woman that had pissed off on my coat wants to come in and can hear me talking. And I ended up going to the corner of the bar and sitting the night there, waiting for something or something to happen. And nothing really did. And the band had a very, very average singer. They had a good bass player and a good guitarist, and I don't remember the drummer at all. But I got up with a harmonica and I started playing, and the place just... I'm not saying it was because of me, but the harmonica just transformed it, and suddenly the place was rocking again. It was fair pumping, and they were just on the verge of almost closing, and people from outside the street were coming in, and suddenly we had a really big party. And I had to get back to the youth hostel at a certain time, and that was well past that, so I wasn't staying there that night. And I ended up playing, and I woke up the next morning on this couch of somebody's house. I don't remember what happened from there to wake up the couch, but I woke up the next morning and it was this family, this really like normal family, complete like mum and dad's going off to work. So mum was making the kids some breakfast, and dad was like with a tie, and he was like he'd shaved and clean, and mum was all clean, and I'm on the couch like this. I've got my harmonica and my blue rucksack, and I wake up on this couch with a headache because I've been drinking, and there's this mother. She comes over to me, and she's almost like the perfect mother out of a program. She says, "Good morning." I'm like, "Yeah, good morning." She goes, "Well, aren't you in a state?" And I'm like, this all on the couch, and all looking like shit. Still got my clothes on, sleeping my clothes on. She goes, "Would you like some breakfast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Go and wash yourself up." So I go into the bathroom, everything's clean, you know, clean towels hanging up. I look at myself in the mirror, my face is all like this, and the mirror is like far out. I'm in there using somebody's toothbrush that's not mine, and somebody's flannel that's not mine, and I'm really like trying to put everything back and pretend I've got my own shit when I haven't. Shouldn't have done that. And I come back out, and there's 3 kids all sitting at the table having their Weet-Bix or something. I can't remember what it was. They're all sitting at the table, and Dad's sitting there, and they've got little napkins, and everything's tidy at this table, and there's some nice music, you know, dun dun da 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 dun da in the background, and they're just sitting around. It's a normal family, and I just looked at everybody. I said, "How did I get here?" And they all looked up, and the mother and the dad looked at each other, and they go, "Don't you remember?" And I went, "No." And Dad kept on eating, and he said, "Not in front of the kids." And I said, "Right." And I said, "Can I join you?" And they said, "Absolutely, there's a chair there for you." There's a chair, and there's a little bowl, and there's a wee bowl of some fruit. I can't even remember what we're eating, fruit or something. It was probably Weet-Bix or something. Sitting there eating at the table, looking around. I don't know these people. And I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't remember your names." Introduced them who I was, and they introduced me their names, which I still can't remember to this day. And we're sitting there, and Dad says, "I'll drop you back off on the way to work." So we're getting to his car. He's got a company car. We're driving along in the company car, and I said to him, "So tell me what the hell happened." He said, "Man, well, you were bloody incredible last night." He says, "You were going really like full noise on the harmonica, and the place was fair like going, and then somebody shouted you some Scarpa whiskey." I said, "Oh, that's right, I do remember that." He said, "Yeah," and he said, "You were going shot for shot with him, and he kept on drinking. This guy was about twice your size, and you out-drunk him, and then suddenly you just passed out on the floor. We couldn't wake you up. We were scared you were like intoxicated." I said, well, who were you? He said, I was the guy that was employed on the door. I did the door there. I was a doorman. I was like, oh, okay, I do remember that. So this guy worked as a doorman. There's a second job he had. And I said, so I took you back to my place and said to my wife, do you mind if this guy stays on the couch? And she was fine. You threw up in the toilet. We gave you a drink last night, so you had some water, and then you passed out on the couch. I was like, oh shit, I couldn't remember any of that. Anyway, he dropped me off at the youth hostel, and those guys, in fairness, I'd already paid for the night. They gave me another night. That night I stayed another night before I left, but I meet a real colourful character who, I've probably told enough of the story, but a real colourful character. That'll be the next throwback yarn after this one here. You have to watch the next one because I've done enough. I'm dying here of the man flu. I can't do much. I tried to do some gardening and just like knocked me on my ass. I'm feeling pretty crook. I caught this off my son. I was looking after him. He was sick. Now I've got it. He's gone and I've got his virus, whatever the hell it is. Anyway, brothers, I hope this gave you some joy, lifted you up a little bit. Thanks for all your hearty comments, and I'll catch you in the next Bro Chick Club video. And I will give you another part of the story. I think you'll enjoy it. Or at least I hope you enjoy it. See ya.